Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Startup Central right here on ET Now with me, Sumita. Kareer. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be touching upon the top stories that we're tracking from the world of entrepreneurship, technology, and, of course, the new economy. But before we start the show and take a look at what's coming up on the show, let's first take a quick look at the headlines we're tracking on the show. All right. In fact, we'll try and bring you the headlines a little later on the show. But let's put the spotlight then on the big tax reset, which is here. GST 2.0 was cleared by the council after a marathon 10-hour meeting from September 22nd. India will now move to a simpler two-slab structure, 5% and 18%, with the steep 40% rate reserved for luxury and sim goods. Everyday essentials from butter, cheese, soaps and shampoos to bicycles, small cars and household items, they get cheaper, while ultra high temperature milk and basic breads, they go tax-free. White goods like ACs and TVs move to 18% from 28%. In fact, in a big boost to the insurance sector as well. Life and health insurance policies will be fully exempt, while gyms, salons and yoga services drop to just 5%. The council also has clarified that all of these categories of electric vehicles, whether mass market or luxury, they will continue to attract a GST rate of 5% with no additional cess. The GST Council has raised tax on online real money gaming from 28% to 40%, and it's classified it as a sin good alongside casinos and betting. So another blow that's coming in to real money games. In fact, household games saw a GST cut to 5%, and now this comes as another blow, like I said, to online real money gaming. Remember, this is coming in after Parliament's ban on online real money gaming to curb fraud, money laundering and terror financing and other such activities it claimed to be happening due to these platforms. The government essentially says that GST reforms will bring about an ease in business, boost consumption, benefit farmers, MSMEs and middle class. The centre admits it will lose revenue initially. That's nearly 48,000 crores, but expects higher demand, better compliance and stronger growth to make up for it. And now that the luxury EV segment is still going to attract a 5% GST, we spoke with Audi India's head on on the kind of an impact that this cut will have on demand in the segment, and how enthusiastic is the company about these GST rates.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, we were kind of, let's say, a little worried what will happen to the EVs, but this came as a very, very positive news. That EV still remains to be at 5%, which at this point in time, at least for next, let's say, some years, we definitely need, because the industry in the EV is still very, very small. So in next couple of years, we definitely see this to be improving in terms of penetrations that we see. So we definitely are very positive about this news that the EVs GST remains to be at 5%, so that we can plan our business ahead. In general, the luxury space, the planning cycles are very, very long. So we need the stability which we've got now in terms of the GST. And now we are able to, think openly, think forward, and try and bring as many EVs as we can.
Well, now let's put the spotlight on Boat Electronics, which has collaborated with semiconductor startup HrdWyr's on chip design entirely in India, and that's essentially is going to power the audio wearables brand's upcoming premium TWS charging cases early next year. Tata Electronics, meanwhile, has enabled the assembly, packaging and testing in India, ensuring that design, IP creation and packaging have all been executed domestically. And that's according to a release that's been shared by the company. Remember this, even as markets regulator SEBI has approved the IPO of Boat's parent company, Imagine Marketing, according to a document from the regulator that was published this Tuesday. Boat, remember, is known for its headphones and smartwatches. It confidentially filed for an IPO in April, reportedly, and the Warburg Pincus-backed firm is targeting a valuation of 13,000 crores, reportedly. In fact, to talk about this latest partnership with HrdWyr's, and of course, how is Boat looking at giving a boost to its manufacturing muscle in India? We now have on board Samir Mehta, the co-founder and CEO of Boat, and Rabamurthy Sivakumar, who's the co-founder and CEO of HrdWyr's. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on ET Now. To you, Samir, first, what's the strategic rationale behind Boat's entry into the semiconductor co-development segment? I mean, Boat has largely been a lifestyle brand. So how are you looking at this diversification, or rather this partnership that's come about with HrdWyr's?
So honestly, I mean, it's not a business we're getting into. It's just the idea as to, how do you do more value addition in India and, how do you bring up the whole ecosystem? And if you look at, Boat's journey through the years, right? Initially, we were just a brand who would, go to China and, get devices made in China. Then we moved from that to designing our products. Then we moved on to, manufacturing them in India and assembling them in India. Then we started our localization journey, right? So this is just one effort in in that process to ensure that, maximum value addition resides in the country. And this is just one step towards that. I mean, having having a semiconductor in, packaged in India and a company like Boat using it in India is like a big step forward because, one thing that's not happened is, silicon's not been made in India so far, right? Which can be used for our devices. And now that it started happening, and we thought that it was just appropriate for us to go and sign up with Siva. Me and Siva actually connected about a year ago, and we were speaking about how do make sure that that ecosystem keeps coming up, right? And that's why Siva, with his experience, and he's a veteran. He worked at Intel. He knows the landscape really well. He's come back to India and started a chip business. And I thought it was really apt for a company like us to go up and, put our hands up and sign up for it because the semiconductor is a volume game, right? And Boat is a volume player. So we'd be able to, help, Hardwired in a way to scale up their manufacturing volumes. And at the same time, it helps us, indigenize a lot of our designs with Indian fabs.
All right, so localization is essentially what you're looking at with respect to this partnership. But let me come to you, Mr. Sivakumar. What does the deal really look like, and what does this deal really mean for your broader ambitions for your company?
The semiconductor landscape is complex and difficult to navigate in some ways. But as we were looking to anchor our business, one of the first decisions we took was to look for a lead customer who really understands and values innovation. So we went scouting for customers in India. We talked to dozens of companies. And it was really the conversation with Samir and his team that crystallized the idea that there are people looking for differentiation and differentiation at the component level, at the chip level, which is where you can actually derive most value. So that started about a year and a half back. We signed an MOU about a year back to establish the process of how we would engage, how we would initially work together. For us to first understand the segment, Boat's the expert in the TWS and audio segments of the market. So for us to understand really what the roadmap for them was, what are the things that they are trying to solve, what innovations are they trying to bring, and more importantly, what customer pain points are they trying to solve. So understanding all of that ultimately translates into our ability to then start looking at features both on the performance side, on the battery life side, on various other things that allows you to eventually deliver value to the customer. So post the MOU last April, we had multiple months of engagement with them in defining the specification of the chip that we were going to build. This is a hardwire chip. The chip will be branded hardwire. And our lead customer is Boat to take it out to market. And like Samir said, the most important predicate in the semiconductor business is volume. If you don't get the volume right, if you don't get the volume in the cadence that you want, it is very hard to build the right economics. So from that perspective, having a leading player like Boat align with us and be able to then define the innovations that we wanted to jointly bring to market has been a tremendous collaboration between the two companies.
All right, Samir, although you spoke about the fact that you're primarily an electronics company, which is into lifestyle as well, but you see Boat playing a larger role in India's semiconductor journey, the semiconductor ecosystem, which is being currently given a boost by the government. In fact, just earlier this week, there was the India Semicon Summit 2025, where CEOs from various semiconductor companies globally congregated here. How are you looking at this sector vis-a-vis the kind of ambitions or aspirations that you have for your company's growth?
So honestly, we are consumers of fab, right? Silicon in any form, right? We use so many MCUs, SOCs. And just keeping in line with the government's vision of making sure that India becomes a manufacturing ecosystem, it is upon brands who are based in India to encourage companies to come and set up shop here, right? And as long as there's domestic consumption and domestic companies are able to use these chips, there'll be success, right? So it's just a way of one is looking at it more strategically rather than very tactically. And yes, I mean, for us, in a way, it also actually helps us cut down our lead times, cuts down our exposure to dollar. Time to market can be quicker because local support from chip manufacturers available. So it actually works for us in that regard also. But yes, as a consumer of massive silicon, I think we would love to indigenize as much as possible.
Right. So indigenization of whether it is semiconductors or electronics, that's essentially what you're going to be looking at. But Ramamurthy, let me come to you once again. What kind of chips do you see India needing the most in the next 3 to 5 years, and how is HrdWire positioned to deliver on that?
Yeah, so we took a very deliberate view towards where chip architectures are going. One of the fundamental changes happening in chips is in SOCs, particularly system on chips, is the introduction of AI. So we believe that all chips, all SOCs will become AI SOCs. And the market's very broad. We are in the 10x growth phase of that market, going from $20-30 billion globally to about a $300 billion, $350 billion market in the next 10 to 12 years. And in such a large market, you need focus. So we picked power, battery, and energy management as the key areas of focus for us, at least initially. Looking at the way this business runs, you build a lot of core IP, and then you look for players across the board. Obviously, we started with the consumer segment with a very good brand and people who can bring a tremendous volume for us from board's perspective. But as we expand our portfolio and go into other segments, we continue to plan to build within this space of power and energy management. But other opportunities will come. It's a very, very large market, and strategy is a living thing, and will continue to evolve.
All right. Samir, let me also come to the big news story of the day, and that's essentially the GST rate rationalization exercise that the government has undertaken. There are expectations that it will lead to a boost in demand. It will lead to a boost in consumption as well over the next couple of months. But is the outcome along expected lines?
So honestly, I mean, it's come as a surprise to everybody, right? Reduction in GST rates. I think there's no talk in town that is happening. For unfortunately, it does not affect my industry, but it overall affects some other industry, and because of that, we are seeing some demand coming back, right? The demand has been slightly slower over the last, I think, 1 or 2 quarters. But with this, just removing a 12% barrier on consumers, right? It'll bring up pent up demand. Demands that's been lying but not coming to the market will come up for sure.
All right. So pent-up demand is essentially going to get a boost given the fact that we are in the midst of the festive season. But how much of an impact would a lower GST have on the affordability of products in the consumer electronics domain, even though it may not impact the category that you're operating in directly?
To be very honest, right, just take an example of TVs, right? The price of a TV can come down from as much as 10 to 12%, and 10 to 12% actually is a very, very big sum of money, right? If you look at an average Indian buying something in Diwali, they normally earmark around 20,000 rupees to buy something really big for Diwali. And if there's a 10% drop, it actually helps, right? It makes things affordable. And now with, there are so many affordability levers also available in the market, right? There are EMI schemes, plus the price going down. I think overall the consumption will come back. Looks like it's going to be a good Diwali.
All right. So you are anticipating a good Diwali, good festive season. But Samir, let me ask you another question. Even though, like I stated, that this move doesn't really impact the category that you're operating in, but an overall reduction in rates and, of course, slabs, what does that really bring for you as a company in terms of demand creation, especially in tier 2 towns and cities? And if you could give us some figures as well.
I can't really pinpoint what kind of numbers will come in, right? But hope seeing that there's a 10% cut, right? And India is a very different market, right? India's there are so many different Indias at every price point. There's an India, and there people coming in and buying stuff. So 10% reduction, my take is at least around a 20-25% increase in demand should come in, because it makes things quite affordable. But directly putting a number to it, I don't know whether I can, but I'm assuming that that around 20 odd percent should be something that should come along.
All right. And Samir, what does this move and the festive feeder demand mean for the company's overall growth for this financial year?
So honestly, for us, it doesn't change anything, right? Because we have never been in the 28% bracket. We still stay at 18% across all our devices. So it doesn't change a lot for the company. Overall, I think Diwali demand is looking good, right? I mean, if we've had, generally the season, or, the festive period, what we call, start for us in July and goes up till October. And July started off well. The Prime Day has gone really well for us. So we're expecting this Diwali to be better than the last Diwali for sure.
Right, this Diwali is going to be better than the last Diwali. But Samir, since we're talking about a demand boost, how much is quick commerce as a channel contributed to that growth versus, let's say, traditional retail and e-commerce channels? And what are you anticipating and expecting in terms of the contribution that both of these channels will make to your business in terms of sales?
So quick commerce has, like I said, has been a very big revelation, right? And we were the early movers in quick commerce. Currently, about 8 to 10% of goods revenue actually is coming from quick commerce, but it's scaling really fast. I think it's taking away some share from e-commerce, some share from GT. But what it's solving for is demand that was also lost along the way, right? When people wanted something urgently and it didn't come, they would postpone those buying decisions. And now with quick commerce and everything available in 10 minutes, your decision, your impulsiveness also comes into play, and people are buying a lot more. But having said that, I think quick commerce as a channel will keep growing. We believe that it's going to be our next growth frontier. We are hoping that by the end of next year, at least 15 to 20% of our revenues come from quick commerce.
All right, so 15 to 20% of sales are going to come via the e-commerce channel. And of course, it will be interesting to see the kind of investments that you make into that channel as a company to drive your business forward. But Samir, as a company, how do you see ports' role in India's manufacturing story, given that the government is rolling out schemes, whether it's for the semiconductor sector or for boosting domestic value addition and manufacturing for electronics? And how much of your production are you, at the moment, whatever it is that you're producing, how much are you looking at localizing that?
So we have actually localized about 80% of our production, right? And our audio products, 80% of products are made in India. In wearables, about 90-95% of the products are made in India. I mean, we'll keep. The idea now is to localize more, right? Indigenous, take away the imports that we have. And that's what we are working towards. I think, as long as we are at 80-85% of manufacturing in India, I think we should be okay. The idea is going to keep making sure that, you actually build that ecosystem in India so that, your supply chain becomes much stronger within the country.
Right. So one final question, Samir, before we let you go, and this is essentially about the other news for which boat has been in the news. Well, your IPO application has been cleared by SEBI reportedly. How soon could the industry and boat heads expect the company to hit the D street? And what is your expectation on what this IPO and listing on the bourses will do for your company, which has been at the forefront of consumer electronics?
Honestly, I can't talk about this, but it's just a milestone in the journey, to be very honest. I mean, the rest of the things I'm advised not to talk about it. So I'm sorry about that, but hopefully when we are closer to it, we can talk.
All right, and look forward to having that conversation with you, Samir, whenever that IPO gets filed. But on that note, thank you very much to you, both the gentlemen, Samir and Mr. Ramamurthy, for joining us here on ET Now and engaging into this conversation on India's electronics manufacturing ecosystem, on GST and how that will boost demand overall in the consumption space. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, let's now shift our focus to the other news that's coming in. While India and Singapore are stepping up cooperation in artificial intelligence, as both the nations are seeking to strengthen technological and economic resilience. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that tech and innovation are now pillars of bilateral ties, with new agreements on AI expected to boost collaboration in research, skilling and applications across sectors. Remember, Singapore is already a major hub in global chip production and advanced technologies. It is seen as a key partner in India's push to scale up AI capabilities amidst rising US tariff pressures. And of course, that AI push coming in amidst US tariff strain, but both the companies are looking at increasing cooperation in artificial intelligence as both the nations are looking to strengthen technological and economic resilience. Well, on that note, it's time for us to close the show. Thank you very much for tuning in, and do write to us at suc@etnow.tv to share your feedback on the show and what you'd like to watch on the show, the kind of conversations that you want us to have on this show that's all about startups, technology and the new economy. On that note, goodbye and thank you very much for staying tuned.